I asked what the tablet is, right? Now, I'm just going to explain in a simple manner how your preparation to the polity subject has to be with this example. Current affairs by this topic came in, okay? Methanol, a widely used common drug in India, is now posing serious threats, serious side effects, and all those things came into current affairs. Whether it's true or false is none of your concern. Okay, I am not telling you to go into that, look into that, find out whether the truth. You don't want the truth. You are strictly preparing for this UPSC exam, then you have to prepare it for the way the exam asks. That exam, okay, your syllabus clearly states that current affairs, meaning it doesn't concern whether it was right or whether it was wrong, whether the news is true or false. It was in news. Okay, that's all is important for you. So that particular tablet came into news. Simple thing, Meftol, it's a painkiller. Okay, at least one of you did the homework. So and so that has went on that since long ages. Okay, this particular tablet has been used widely by women to use and ease period cramps. Understanding? It has been very widely used. Okay, this much you understand. Or whenever you see your current affairs book compilation or something, they'll give you, this tablet has so and so composition. This was the issue. This particular drug company did this. That particular drug company did this. So India retaliated like this. These newses you will get. Okay, but this news is not what is going to save you in mains and your interview. That is where your work has to come in. Current affair ka issue you found out. It is a painkiller drug you found out. Okay. Yeah. Okay. For what is it extensively used? Ease period cramps. That much is the only news you have. The same piece of information will fall into the eyes of UPSC also, because that is also seeing current affairs only, no? Again, it doesn't pick current affairs from any of the institute materials. It doesn't pick from any of the standard books. UPSC doesn't follow such things, but it picks one source, that is your newspapers. So it picks this topic. Now, if it has to ask questions from this topic, last class, if you remember, I wrote a word. Everything in UPSC works around this. Whatever we're speaking now is something related to drug, right? Usually people tend to get confused. It is general science and technology. It is not science and technology. It's actually polity. Only if you know how to do this. Let's brief about it further. Yes, fine. It is used to do something with respect to your period cramps. Yeah. Again, you will think, it's science and technology. Again, it's not science and technology. It is polity. Period cramps, okay, fine. So somewhere, again, don't get too taboo-ish thick. All right. You are not a person who is assigned yourself with gender. Okay. So when this comes to period cramps and all, fine. So now you understand, okay, there are women who do undergo period cramps. For some people, you have to get educated. What is a period? Right? So a period cramp happens and then people for that reason take some tablet. At least this much it's clear that, okay, some people have some pains. Recently, again in one more current affair news, you would have heard this. I don't know how many of you have heard this, but if you've heard this, just raise your hand. Smriti Irani was against paid period leave. Okay, at least 1%, 2%. All right. See, this particular topic came in as to India, at least the constitution states in very formalist or formal sector, we have something called as paid maternity leave. Okay. Whereas in the Western countries, now they have a month or so of paid paternity leave. Slowly, they're trying to bring that back to India. But one of the issues with India is anything with respect to paid, people consider it as a burden. Most times, still today, okay, even in this fast-moving world, people considered anything to be paid, that is paid maternity leave, as a burden. Okay, still many companies, so it makes them hire that particular person less. If I hire a woman only, no, then I have to give a paid maternity leave or not. If I don't hire at all, That was one of the issues. So when Smriti Irani was against this concept of paid period leave, majority of the other sections still, oh, why are you trying to do this? If you were a woman, you would understand. And they're like, oh shit, she is a woman, so she knows what she's doing. Then is when she said, see, this concept of paid maternity leave, I've discussed in one of the classes too. Informal, formal. We assume that formal sector means yes, they get paid maternity leave. No. Even in formal sectors, majority chunk lies in contractual business or somewhere of your freelancing and all those things. The concept of freelancing might appear very less in the job profile, but contractual is where it happens most. People try to use this because they don't have to then pay any maternity leave. Okay, so when here you have to link to paid maternity leave. Okay, both these are very hardly tried to be brought into the legislation. That is, we will have to make it mandatory to make sure that every woman avails this benefit. This is a very good thing if it comes into reality, but to make this happen, it is a very huge, difficult business. The whole point this concept was not agreed upon was because then women, men, if we look at in a gendered society, okay, if we look in the gendered society, concept of hiring women itself is very less when it comes to India. Forget equal pay. This is where you will bring in this topic. Forget equal pay, the concept of equal hiring itself is not there, because when someone has to hire a woman, well, now for someone whose whole motive in the private sector is to make money, he will try and most to make sure money will be with him and he will not have to spend it. But when he hires someone, like let's say a woman, he is now made to pay these things. And this becomes a law. Okay, which means he will think that instead of hiring a woman and doing all these things, let me just hire a man. It'd be easier for me. So this alters, or this already negates the concept of hiring women. Okay, here is where again you will interlink it with here. STEM, that is science, technology, and all, engineering, medicine, and all these fields. If you see, the percentage of women in the top tier is just 1% and below 1%. Okay, why is it below 1%? Is because first and foremost, people think that, hi, it is not worthy to educate a woman. What is the point of it? Either we get married, have kids, and that should finish her life. I'm not telling that is, but that is how the gendered society perceives. So this concept makes it even more difficult for this particular woman who are less than 1%. If they enter into workforce, they are facing this issue, they have to face this issue, and then they have to face this issue. Okay, this particular concept is in your DPSP or Directive Principles of State Policy. These two are directly your legislative topics. In the interview, they will pose, if you are, they like hypothetical questions a lot. If you are to give compulsory paid period leave, would you do it? Now I'm going to just pose this question. You guys answer this. If you have the power to legislate, look at the word, I'm not asking for any bureaucratic question. I'm asking legislative question. If you have the power to legislate, would you make paid period leaves compulsory? Did you understand the question? Okay. I'll give you a minute, think on it, and everyone is supposed to answer this question. Whatever your answer is, you have to tell why you are choosing the answer. Who'll go first? I'll start picking people.
Women have to face many issues. First of all, recruitment of women is less number. So with this, it might bring their women empowerment will turn in reverse.
Okay. All right. Next.
Instead of paid leave, I would suggest work from home in those 4 to 5 days. Because as you said, like it will hamper their recruitment.
I make it paid because not just the company will be discouraged from hiring the women, but also women might not get opportunities. What if they're ready to work and still they will have to be compelled to take the, like, even it is optional, but they will have that, that environment where they will have to take the grade because everyone is doing, so that compulsion would also be there. And the second reason is what I said, it discourages the company.
Any take?
Yeah.
Your?
Can I answer it?
Yeah, sure.
I would suggest like we should do paid period leaves to women, because in general companies have 12 sick leaves and women use one every month when it is most needed. If you give this, it would be an incentive for them, and instead of working half-heartedly, either working from home or in the office, they'll come rejuvenated the next day to come to work. So the paid period leave is a must.
So I'm like not supportive because there is some problem with women. They are we don't have equal pay concept also in there is formal as well as informal sector, but mostly in formal sector also there are women are running in contact with work. So there is a difficulty to implement it in grounds, and if we try to like we can see the previous data, like we have implement the maternity consent, and if it like works fine, and the data is showing the women are coming more in this field. So like we can see that also, that part also, to get the proper visuality about the condition.
One improvement is concerned, so before legislating this, we have to legislate something like 40 mandatory hiring of women, and so if that is done, then we can move on. So
I'm not going to support the paid period because in India it's women are very made nations like previous so if we put the paid period to become a resistance to women empowerment, they will not come out of the house because no one will not have. So I'm not going to support it.
If I could, mostly I wouldn't support paid period leave because every woman is different, can't actually even have a company needs their work to it. Instead, I make it easier for them. Like if they have a choice, then they should be given the allowance to decide if they want to work here or work from home only on those days, which is important. And then if possible, if this will come into picture, only paid paternal leave is allowed, because then it will be a burden to hire both men and women. Then this wouldn't be a big deal. So if both of that and then the hiring part is solved, then we can think about paid leave.
I'm not agree for paid paternity leave. Paid maternity leave during once in a while is totally different from this government for every month. From the point of companies will, they'll be, of course, they'll be more concerning on the profit more than giving this one.
So somewhere majority of you were against this concept of paid period leave, right?
Conditional also, if she wants to work overtime on some other day, and if she wants to take leave on some days, then she may. It could be conditional, right?
Okay. This particular type of questions are your questions which do not have a beginning and which do not have an end. At the same point of time, these are also the kind of questions that we call honey trap questions, where either way you answer, you will be posed back with the question. Now I will pose as an interviewer. This usually happens. They love playing this game. For them, for some reason, it's very amusing that they get into that spirit of questioning mode. Fine, you all said blatantly, you went out and told paid period leave, I will not agree. I can tackle these questions in two ways. Now I will ask you. There again, gendered society, so I will attack in the gendered society manner. Men say, no, paid period leave. Do you know the period's pain? Do you know it? You don't know it. Then how are you able to tell? Because you're in a power of legislating. Okay. Today, if you see present 21st century pay, we have something called as all your big G20 countries plus your G7 countries. If you don't know what these are, just these are very powerful countries. Okay. This involves your developing countries, but this is like super rich developed countries. One of the major issues that everyone is pointing out is these countries pay majority person who is in the power to make a legislate is usually a man. Okay, they are not able to determine what is right for a woman. They think this is better for a woman, but they don't know that because a woman will do it better. Because now if I said paid period leave, the guys, I'm telling, okay, I'm not telling this is wrong or wrong, but this is also a way you have to think about. When you said, no, I will not give paid period leave, you blatantly told it out without even thinking. Now, this topic came into question or discussion because there is an issue associated with it. Now, let's take this. Our Ministry of Women, Child and Development has actually put out data. Okay, that in again paid period leave concept itself, majority people don't understand. Women have something called as menstruation for 5 days at least on a standard. In that, they are not telling all 5 days we're going to give you work from home, leave and all those things. Any one of the heavy flow days. Again, this is a very higher class, not your typical college class. So contemplate it because you're going to become the next bureaucrat who will take decision on this topic. Okay. On one of the days of heavy flow, the women, this particular department, our ministry, which is actually putting forward data on how our women are. First of all, to answer this question, or before you touch this question, you had to attempt this. Iron. Out of 5 women in India, 3 women are anemic. Okay, this is a very alarming fact, but this is also true. This is true for all these countries, G20 countries, meaning where actual power, population and poverty lies. This is where all 3 are focused. Power, population, poverty. All these 3 is a very deadly combination. And this is where we have to speak about this. This either way they will give it. It doesn't matter. This is where the issue is coming up. And this topic looks like, it is just perspective to India. No, this is a global topic. Internationally, it's come into discussion. That is why it's now crept into India. And also our WCD has told that 3 women suffered because of the heavy flow day, that they are not able to, some majority section of the women. I said 3 out of 5 is a very alarming rate. Okay. 3 out of 5 women are so shaky that they are not able to stand up, sit, sleep, lie down or do anything. Okay. Now, when you said, maternity leave concept, when it first introduced, the same concept thing was there. Then they won't hire only. At least you're speaking of 1 day. There you're speaking about 6 months. Okay. Yes, people will not hire. Companies are focused only on profit, but the state, okay, but the state should not be focused on only that. And the whole point of making something in a state is not that, okay, in that case, children below 14 years of age, that also we will deal in today's class, fundamental rights. Children below 14 years of age are not allowed to work in hazardous industries. Earlier, it was said that, okay, there was a legislation that said that children below 18 years of age should not work at all. Then it was pointed out, no, here people have to work because what if all the male members are dead and this is the only guy, the mother was not allowed to work and all these. So Indian scenario, they had to change the legislation. Okay. Similarly, outright, you cannot reject anything. Understanding? Especially when you are in a position to legislate and when that questions are posed to you, do not outright say, I will not give paid period leave. So, okay, fine, you are not going to give paid period leave. Now, let me pose the same scenario back. Now, there is a woman who is hardly having the energy to stand, sit. Again, like one of you pointed out, half-heartedly come because you have to go work. On that one particular day, had she been given a holiday, okay? First and foremost, her health would be at least better. Second of all, her output ratio to the work will be better contributed, right? But no, you are making her work thinking, no, she might not get hired. Why you make it stringent? So this is just very basic we are touching. There are very depths to this topic. But what I'm trying to tell is this kind of questions, you are not at the power to say yes or no. And whenever these questions are asked, never pick a yes or no. Understanding? Give out the pros, give out the cons, then find a way where you incorporate this, but at the same point of time, you make sure that the person who is concerned, okay, again, when it comes to women also, some can tell, no, there is no such thing, I can come work. But the same other woman can tell, I can barely stand up. That is also the scenario. Okay, when I told you dwell on this, I meant like this. Any single topic, okay, that you will be going through in the current affairs, try to relate it like this, because that is how they relate. Understanding? Out of the blue in the interview, when they ask state period leave question, what is it? The question was interlinked in all these manners. Understood? Yes or no? Your DPSP, all these things we learn. See, now we are speaking about fundamental rights. Yes, Article 13. Your Article 21 is your right to life. This particular topic is the core crux of Article 21, right to life. Today, she is not having this particular moment, or she is forced to do, because her life, here Article 21 is considered as the foundation stone of fundamental rights. I write that down, by the way. Article 21 is considered as the foundation stone of fundamental rights, and it is the most broadest article that we ever have in our Indian Constitution. The interpretation is very broad. Supreme Court makes sure it is a very broad interpretation. So when you say, I can pose back as an interviewer, when you're purposely denying her this, you're purposefully denying a dignified life. So you are in a way hurting her Article 21, that is her right to life. Are you able to see how it can be posed? So anything that comes to real life human beings, do not say yes or no. It is equivalent to me asking, if you had the power, would you remove all the religions? You wouldn't want to either say yes, you wouldn't want to say no. Understanding? And also, when you are going to speak about this particular topics, which you will, now all of you somewhere will use this word, women empowerment. When you use this, it automatically opens the door for questioning on that particular topic. And if your knowledge is very, very off the top, you will land yourself in trouble. That is why I told, delve into these topics, not by looking into your genders, but as a bureaucrat who will further be taking decisions for the entire district. Understanding? So when I said in this class, you're a bureaucrat, your homework should also be like one. Clear? So again, I'm repeating, go back and do your homework on this particular topic. Clear? This is just summation. Whatever I'll tell you to write down, just those things I write down. Otherwise, just someone read out the slide. Someone read it out loud, not into yourself.
British 96, 11 governors, provinces, plus 4 chief commissioner provinces. Princely states, 93 nominated by princes, representation based on population, proportional representation, single transferability.
We've discussed this in detail. These details you don't have to worry yourself with. Okay? In your modern history, they'll explain in detail. This thing means nothing in front of that. Please read this.
Making of Indian Constitution. Conceived by Emil White, 1934. 1935. INC demand of Constituent Assembly. 1940. August offer. Just idea accepted. 1942. Phillips Commission. Rejection. Two Constituent Assembly. Muslim League. 1946. Cabinet Missions Map. Rejection of Constituent Assembly.
I'll add on the subheading. This is strictly prelims perspective. Okay. Constitutional dates. Okay. Write down three subtopics under it. First point, write down. When was, write on the question itself, when was Constituent Assembly set up? Put a hyphen and leave some space. Second point. When was Constitution adopted?
Longer than UPSC, 300 UPSC, that will make it. That's the.
Which one? It's not that. What was the second one you wrote down? Third one, write down. When did Constitution come into force? Put a hyphen and leave some space. See, all these three are separate topics. All these three, they use it to confuse you in the prelims. First and foremost, as we discussed in the very first beginning class, Constitution was adopted in two parts. First, we did few in November 1949. The rest remaining, we did it in Jan 26, 1950. The only reason is, goodness for us, that also we discussed in detail. The entire idea of a constituent assembly was set up by your, or first was conceived by your M.N. Roy, okay, in 1934. That topics are not here needed because you will deal with it in your history, modern history. When was Constitution established? November 1946, right there. The first one. Constituent Assembly, November 1946. See the next two, as in your sentence. Each time the Constituent Assembly, when we discussed, okay, it had the role, it had to perform as both legislative body as well as a constitution making body. Whenever it met as a constitutional body, that meeting would always be chaired by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Whenever it was to make laws, ordinary laws, it was met by and chaired by G.V. Malvankar. Write these two, by heart these two and keep it because prelims pe they had asked a question. And also in your book, if you see, you have multiple questions as to who was the first union powers minister, who was the first caring minister. Okay, that there is nothing that I have to explain to you in detail. So just have a look at it. You don't have to by heart it, just go through it. The original constitution had 390 articles, 8 schedules and a preamble. Now it has changed way off the limit. You don't have to by heart anything, but just have a look. The first two things you have to by heart. Done? We'll move ahead. So please read this.
Preamble, objective resolution, preamble adopted 26 November 1949, preamble come into force 26 January 1950.
Again, I told you preamble is like an index. So what happened in the Constituent Assembly was after the entire constitution was done, okay, they decided to put preamble in the first. So basically because it is a summation of the book. Jawaharlal Nehru gave out a speech, okay, before beginning of the constitution in the name of objective resolution. Look at this, this is where you have to concentrate. Preamble was put after the constitution was made. Understood? Clear up until here, no? In the Constituent Assembly, before the constitution was to be prepared, Jawaharlal Nehru came to the podium and he told, we are going to sit and make a constitution. What can you expect from the constitution is, and then he gave a speech. That is called objective resolution. Understanding? So which came first? Constitution came first or objective resolution came first? Clear up until here, right? After the constitution was made, completely prepared. Now I told you they had to put a preamble. Preamble means index. So what these people did was they took the bits from the objective resolution, modified it, and that was called as preamble. Clear? Did you follow it? So where did preamble come from? Okay. So preamble came first or your constitution came first? Constitution. Clear up until here, no? Write this down in a way that's easier for you to understand. Books page confusing. In the 3 questions you wrote down, what is the third question? What is it?
Constitution came into force.
Both your preamble and constitution came into force completely 26 January 1950. Fill it up. Done? Clear up until here?
So adopted, 26 November.
So please read this. This is, by the way, your preamble of India. And one thing I would suggest you, which you strongly do is, see, I know what I'm telling and how it sounds, but that's the reality. It would be better for you for both prelims and mains if you by heart this. Reason being, prelims they tend to ask you, and they have asked you questions, which is entirely on what is written here. You don't even have to use your brain, you just have to by heart this. Mains pay, okay? I had told you to write a question on preamble, I assume. Let's assume you have forgotten what to write in preamble. If you in the behind just write this and build the answer on this, you have yourself good amount of decent marks. Okay, so you have to by heart this. More questions are focused on in your prelims and mains, not interview. Okay, no one is going to tell you to recite prelims preamble there, but in prelims and mains, this is very handy. Some please read this.
We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution.
I know it seems big, it is big, but I'll just tell you how the prelims questions are asked. We, the people of India, the force or the power is coming from here. Clear? The ideal of the nation, okay, that is what kind of nation did they want is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. We have discussed all these in detail. And to secure to all its citizens from this concept till here, whatever you see, this is called as objectives. Okay, that is justice. But here is where this justice, whatever we are giving, is both social justice, economic justice, and political justice. Okay, liberty. What is the type of liberty we are giving? Liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of belief, liberty of faith, liberty of worship. Prelims question 2017 was asked. Liberty is given in our preamble for what of those things, and these options were given. One of those was a wrong option. So you had to pick which of these. So you would have known that only if you would have by hearted. That is the options were liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. First option. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, worship, and then apart from saying something else, they put speech. Understanding this was actual prelims question. Just this one line was cherry picked from preamble and put it as a 2-mark question. One thing people tend to forget is if you do not see whenever the question is on preamble, whether it becomes a matter of ego, the people will answer it because that is the very first topic we're teaching, and you also have it in your mind. It's preamble, I can answer it. So people answered it. They answered it without even knowing this thing that if they hadn't by hearted. They thought, okay, this was there, this was there. Blindly they answered. If you answer a question wrong, people's assumption is I lose 0.6 marks. You don't lose 0.6 marks, you lose 2.66 marks. Understanding? So the large outcome, one question getting wrong is not 0.6 marks going, 2.66 marks. So somewhere on a roundup of 3 marks you're going. Okay, be careful. This way they love to ask questions. That is why we're telling by hearts. Equality. This was again a 2020 question. Prelims. Equality of status and opportunity and to promote equality among them all. Okay. Fraternity, nothing but brotherhood. Fraternity assuring dignity of the individual, unity and integrity of the nation. Okay. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, hereby adopt, enact, give ourselves this constitution. See, in the words, in the questions that you wrote, you have nowhere written when was the constitution enacted. Yes, usually it was not asked like that. Whatever 3 questions you wrote is what usually it's given. But in prelims question, they asked when was constitution enacted? And the options given were 26 November 1949, 26 January 1950, and 2 other dates. People got confused. November 26, 1946. The date is 26 November 1949. Enacted, many people picked 26 January 1950. Understanding? Here, what is enacted? Those things you don't have to bother. The only thing is they picked that question directly from here. So write down the Constitution was enacted on 26th November 1949. Now, write down the entire preamble now. If you don't want to lose marks from preamble, in prelims, you have to by heart it. How you by heart it, that is your head. Underline these words. The people of India, from sovereign to republic, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, unity, integrity. These words, these are keywords. In between words, if you forget also these keywords, you cannot and should not forget. Done? Shall we move ahead? This was your objective resolution, your part of it, not basically the entire speech of it, but most important part of the objective resolution. Please someone read it.
wherein shall be guaranteed and secured to all the people of India justice, social, economic, and political equality of status, opportunity, and before the law, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association, and action, subject to law and public morality.
Somewhere can you see the resemblance from your preamble and objective resolution? Okay, write this down. You don't have to by heart this, write this only to see the similarities. Whenever you write preamble question on it, you can find out what are the similarities that was taken from your objective resolution as and when the time. Whichever words that you feel are seen or visualized in your preamble, double highlight those words so you just can see which of these words and use it in your answer accordingly. Then we'll move ahead. So now I'll ask this question, is preamble a part of constitution or not? Okay, but for that itself, we had to use it based on your Supreme Court verdicts. The way you will write cases, okay, which you will in your polity, very important ones, whichever I tell you to by heart with the year, just by heart those. In Berubari Union case 1960, see, okay, so what you have to do is Berubari Union case, comma, 1960, if you don't have to put it in brackets, okay. In Berubari Union case, Supreme Court held that you don't have to know details about what was Berubari Union case, who won, who lost, those things and all. Again, not here to study law. Berubari Union case, Supreme Court held that no preamble is not part of the constitution. Keshwanand Bharti case 1973, they held that it is a part of constitution. LIC of India case, they said preamble is not just a part of constitution, it is a very integral part of the constitution. Meaning, when something is a part of constitution, which means you can amend it. If you can amend constitution, then you can also amend preamble. So in a way, it was implied that Berubari Union case it was said that if it is not part of the constitution, then you cannot amend it. Amendments change it. Whereas in Keshwanand Bharti case and LIC of India case, they held that no, if it is a part of constitution, you can amend it, and our preamble has been amended once. Okay, read all these things. This particular one, you have to by heart. Keshwanand Bharti case, comma 1973. You will by heart it and use it from the start of the constitution till the end of the constitution. We will use this case. You will come to know how, where, when. Details of this case again, as and when the topic emerges, we will talk about that also. Done? Done? Next on, we will just be going through the articles, whichever we have discussed, and that articles, I just want you to have a look at it once. Okay. Again, don't go through the entire article like how it is given in the constitution. Not here to study law. What is needed, only that much is enough. Read this.
Article 1, the territory of India can be classified into 10 categories. Territories of the states, union territories, territories that may be acquired by the government of India at any time.
We have discussed these in detail.
Article 2 involves the parliament to admit into the Union of India or establish new state on such terms and conditions as it constitutes. Article 2 applicable only to new states and not existing.
We have discussed this also. The only person who can, okay, create states, destroy states, or whatever it is only parliament. This is where we use the word indestructible union of destructible states. Yeah. Read this.
Authorizes the parliament to form a new state by separation of entity from any state, or by uniting two or more states or parts of states, or by uniting any territory to a part of any state. Increase the area of any state, diminish the area of any state, alter the boundaries of any state, alter the name of any state.
See here, almost 4 articles per what they've spoken about. We discussed that in one example. Creation of your Andhra Pradesh or bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Okay. See here, they're basically telling your articles are very much split into pieces. That one example I used, they have made 4 articles to explain that. Here they're telling if you want to increase the area, decrease the area, alter the boundary, alter the name, all this can be done by the parliament. That's all is the meaning of this article. Okay, the next article pay they will tell if you have to do that, then which majority pay you will do. Then remember, I spoke to you in the example. First, you have to ask the prior president permission and all those things. Look at this, read this.
India, an industry union of distributed states. Article 4. Laws made for admission or establishment of new states under Article 2. And formation of new states or evaluation of areas, boundaries, or names of existing states under Article 3 are not to be considered as amendments of the Constitution under Article 368. Such laws can be passed by a simple majority and by the ordinary legislative process.
Okay. And whenever you're trying to, that's what I told you, bifurcation of state and all these things, this have to be introduced only with the prior permission of the president. Okay. So these are basically the same things that we discussed in one example. Let us split into 4 parts. You don't have to by heart any of these things. If at all you have to by heart anything, the territory of India. Okay, that is India in the constitution is mentioned in 2 words. That also is India and Bharat. Okay, and it is considered as union of states. That is the only thing you have to by heart. Clear? Next, before we start with your citizenship, I told you, you have to by heart. There are certain articles which is there only for your citizens. You have written that down also. 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. What those were, just read these things.
Rights of citizen versus aliens, explicit only to citizen. Right against discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, Article 15. Right to equality of opportunity in the matter of public employment, Article 16. Right to freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, residence, and profession, Article 19. Cultural and educational rights, Article 29 and 30.
No need to write this down. We'll discuss it that time. We can write it. But at least do you know what these articles mean? We start with citizenship. Someone please read this.
Citizens of India at its commencement on January 26, 1950, on domicile based on territory. Persons domiciled in India, Article 5. Persons migrated from Pakistan, Article 6. Persons migrated to Pakistan but later returned to India, Article 7. Persons of Indian origin residing outside India, Article 8.
See, we've spoken about law sanguini and law soli. That is law of blood and law of soil. Okay. We follow which one? Law of blood. We do not follow law of soil. Law of soil is followed in your country like US. For citizenship, we take this date, January 26, 1950. That is, on the day Constitution came into force. Okay, I write that. That was asked as a prelims question. They asked, when did citizenship commence? And options were when Constitution was enacted, when Constitution was adopted, when Constitution came into force. People sat there breaking their head. When did they do what? Okay, citizenship commenced January 26, 1950. That is when Constitution came into force. Okay. Domicile means your residence, where you're staying. On this particular day, if you are a resident here, that is resident means if you are here only, you are residing here, you've been living here, your parents have been living here. So whoever were themselves in India, citizens of India. Okay, persons of that is your Article 5. See, before your division or partition of India into India and Pakistan, Pakistan was also a part of India only, right? So persons who migrated from Pakistan, they were also Indians only, but they were in that portion of the country. So according to Article 6, they are also under your citizenship. Persons migrated to Pakistan but later returned during that period of time. Article 7. Persons of Indian origin residing outside India. Article 8. This is strictly your NRIs, non-residents of India. See, along with the static, I have also added your current affair topic. Okay, that later we'll discuss that also. That is important for your mains. That is your Citizenship Amendment Act. We'll see it. Read this.
Constitutional provisions regarding citizenship. Voluntarily acquires citizenship of any foreign state, loses citizenship. Article 9. Every person who is or is deemed to be a citizen of India shall continue to be such citizen, subject to the provisions of any law made by Parliament. Article 10. Parliament shall have the power to make any provision with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship and all other matters relating to citizenship.
We've discussed all this in details. Read this.
By registration, can register is not an illegal migrant, Indian origin, resident in India for 7 years before making an application for registration. Person who is married to a citizen of India and is ordinary resident in India for 7 years before making an application for registration.
See, US there's this concept of green card. If you marry someone who is a citizen there, then you automatically become a citizen. But here we do not have that thing. If you're marrying an Indian citizen, okay, that doesn't automatically make you an Indian citizen. You have to reside in India. Let's say you want to registration, then you have to reside in India for a couple of years, and then you have to submit the registration. Okay, so here in India, there is no automatic citizenship. The only time that you get is at your birth. Okay, that is why I said in all of these citizenships, okay, they have Parliament has the right to take it away from you. I also told you, if whoever becomes a citizen via your registration, naturalization, they have to take an oath. Even if a person who is got citizenship at birth, okay, and that person commits activities, unlawful activities against the interest of the state, even then his citizenship cannot be terminated. Okay, that is the power of gaining a citizenship at birth. None of your foreign diplomats who's posted in India or any illegal migrants who are born in the soil, just because they're born in the soil, they are not given the citizenship. Understanding? Someone read this?
By nationalization should not be an illegal immigrant. He is not a subject or citizen of any country, but citizens of India are prevented from becoming subjects or citizens of that country by nationalization.
Okay. Here, whatever these things are, these are exactly taken from your articles. That's it. All the details that we discuss in the class, what we discuss, that is very, very crucial. You have to note it down. Understanding? This also discussed. Just the last. Read this.
Overseas citizen of India, person of Indian origin, person having a link to Indian ancestry, not citizens of India cannot purchase agricultural plantation lands, presently holding different country citizenship, person of India origin, overseas card holder, Citizenship Amendment Act 2015 replaced overseas citizen of India with that of overseas citizen of India card holder. Now, PIO plus OCI is equal.
Basically, they're not citizens of India. They're already citizens of some other country. But either any of their parents or grandparents or any of theirs were Indian origin. Okay, that is what today we call the Indian diaspora. They have no idea to come back to India, get citizenship, anything. Just that they had some Indian link to them, that's it. Okay, they have no permission in our country to come here, settle here, live. Just because they are having Indian origin doesn't mean they will get any citizenship. Okay? They are called as PIO, that's person of Indian origin or overseas citizens of India. Do not confuse it with NRIs. NRIs, the meaning is non-resident of India. They are Indians only. They are Indian citizens only. They will come back here. But presently they are living in some other country either for education or for employment. Understanding? They are citizens. These people are not citizens. They are just citizens of some other country who have Indian origin. That's all. Understanding? So to refer to them earlier, that is up until 2014, we used to call them with two names. One was OCI card holder, one was PIO card holders. Same people called with two different names. So then government decided in 2015 Citizenship Amendment Act 2015, we will not call them with two different names such as PIO and OCI. Let's instead merge them and call as OCIC, nothing but Overseas Citizen of India card holder. Don't have to by heart it, don't have to break your head on it. One thing about your OCI or PIO is, see, you know this guy Rishi Sunak. Recently, newspapers come that he lost his PM candidate to another guy. That guy, he is of which country? British. But when he became the prime minister, we used it as an ego boost to tell, those people were trying to sabotage us. See, now we are ruling them. That guy is Britain guy. Understanding? But he has some Indian ancestry. Yes, some sort of Indian ancestry is there. He is not Indian citizen. He is not going to come just because he became the PM. He did not give anything to India. No such things will happen. But it is just an ego boost for us. This is what that is. Okay, he is a PIO, person of Indian origin. Understanding? In any way and form, we have no benefits from that. But at least to tell we feel egoistic boost is there, na? So that person of Indian origin. We'll have multiple citizenship amendment acts. I told you none of those are something that you have to by heart. You have to by heart only one thing. Indian Citizenship Act of 1955. Just that. By heart it, underline it wherever you use. This is the one which became too much controversial. This is your current affair news. Read it.
Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, facing religious persecutions, arrived before 31st December 2014, will now not be jailed as illegal migrants or deported back to their countries, but are eligible for applying for citizenship.
Okay. Again, this you don't have to by heart anything. This became the most controversial act. All right. It is an act, meaning it is now in order. You don't have to worry whether will it come into reality, will it not come into reality, whether what they did was right, wrong. You don't have to break your head on that. That is why legislatures are there. All right. This is the first point right on under this heading. This is current affair, not part of your static. Also mention the date, 31st December 2014. Done? This is the fundamental rights from 14 to 32. It's difficult, but you have to by heart at least the names of the articles. Someone please read this.
Fundamental rights, right to equality, Article 14 to 18. Right to freedom, Article 19 to 22. Right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24. Right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28. Culture and educational right, Article 29 to 30. Right to property, Article 31. Right to constitutional remedy, Article 20.
I write this down. See, everything that we discuss in the class, that is where all the information is given. That is very important. That time, just write it down. These things are pure article names and what it means in the context. See, initially we had 7 fundamental rights, but later your 6th point was removed or repealed. Repealed means that it was removed. So right now we have only 6 fundamental rights. Your 6th point, right to property being your Article 31 is removed. It is no longer a fundamental right, but just a legal right under Article 300. What that is, what all the story, little bit later. Done? Shall we move ahead? Read this.
Fundamental rights, Article 12. State includes the following: government and Parliament of India, government and legislature of states, all local authorities, municipalities, panchayats, district boards, improvement trust, etc. All other authorities, that is statutory or non-statutory authorities like LIC, ONGC, SAIL, etc.
What was the one simple word that I told you what Article 12 means? Definition of a state. Majority people are always confused about what Article 12 is. Keep that in mind. These things you don't have to by heart any of these words. What Article 12 I told you, if you remember that, that's more than it. So basically everything and anything which has part of state in it comes under the concept of state. Why we have to define a state? Because if we're telling fundamental rights, the state has to follow it, it shouldn't violate it, then we have to tell whom. We cannot, earlier there was this case where, you cannot go put a case on LIC. Then they told, no, LIC is a part of state because it is run by your state. That is nothing but your government. So which now comes under LIC also has to respect your fundamental rights. That is why you saw one of the cases, LIC India case. Article 13, read this.
Article 13, all laws that are inconsistent with or in derogation of any of the fundamental rights shall be void. Doctrine of judicial review, Supreme Court Article 32, High Court Article 226 can declare a law unconstitutional and invalid on the ground of contravention of any of the fundamental rights.
Basically, I told you Article 13 is judicial review. Yeah. One thing is, nowhere in the Constitution has been the word mentioned judicial review. Okay? Nowhere this word has been mentioned. Prelims question, write it down. Neither in Article 13 do we use this word, or this word judicial review is not defined. No one has told what judicial review is, but it is the interpretation. When I tell Article 13 is judicial review, yes. But what does it mean? It means that our Supreme Court and High Court can declare a law unconstitutional and void, which means it can strike down any law. In simpler sense, this is called judicial review. This is what our courts practice. This is what our constitution tells, but it does not use that word anywhere. Done? We have not looked at this. Read this.
Article 14, equality before law and equal protection of laws. Person means legal persons, statutory corporations, companies, registered societies, or any other type of legal person.
This don't even bother. Write down what Article 14 and this. You have to by heart this. Equality before law, equal protection of laws. Done? This. This. What we discussed in the class contains more weightage than what was shown there. Your Article 14 is now where actual fundamental rights begin. 12 to 35. Okay, we said our broader version of your fundamental right, actual version of fundamental rights are from 14 to 33. These things are broader because these give effect to fundamental rights. Understanding? Is that clear? From now we start actual fundamental rights. The first article begins under your right to equality. Article 14 which states equality before law and equal protection of laws. You've just seen that. See, there are multiple concepts we have taken from British. Our constitution is almost, we have taken or we have borrowed the elements of our constitution from all throughout the country. In your book itself, you'll see we have taken DPS free from Irish constitution, we've taken fundamental rights from them, we've taken fundamental duties from these guys, and so on and so forth. That's also asked in your prelims question. Your concept of this equality before law, okay, is taken from your British concept. This is an old Britain concept. Okay. See, again, when we are telling old Britain concept, it just meant that back then in Britain, okay, that is 14th century, back when we go, they had this concept called as lords, serfs, commons, meaning they had this concept of masters, slaves, and all those things. Feudalism. before this concept of equality crept in. According to them, equality means everyone. Let's say this is law. For us, what is the law of the land? Yeah, we don't have any body above it, and this is the superior most body. But for British people, in front of their law, every citizen was common. Okay, according to British concept, this equality before law means it is as simple as telling everyone in front of law is equal. They told this concept because they had the concept of feudalism. Every particular law, whatever is made in their country, it is based on their country's scenario. According to their country, people who were having or born with high or who was a lord, who was a master, they were treated above. Okay, in feudalistic world. So to break that, they told no, every single person is common. Meaning they meant that if you're a lord, if you're a serf, if you're a master, if you're a slave, that doesn't matter anymore. We are all equal. They brought this concept because it was suited to their society. Understanding? Now we adopted this in 1940. Okay, let's take 1950 because it came into force, right? From 1950 onwards, this was there in place in India. But we did not face this issue. We didn't have lord, serf, master, slave, but we had other issues. That is caste. This topic was taken from the Britain. See, understand this topic very, very clearly. What I'm trying to explain, it is not there in your books, but what we are trying to tell is how your questions will come in mains. This equality before law concept, we took it from the British. Why did they keep this law? Because they had that particular issue in their state. Okay, lord, serf, master. So, to bring equality means they had to see everyone equally. Understanding? Clear up until here? Write down up until here. Just write down up until here. Done? Clear up until here? See, one of the criticism of our constitution is ours is a borrowed constitution. It is too lengthy, too much stuff is written. Throughout the world, whatever constitution ka features other you have taken and put it in your constitution. And also it is too much of legal stuffs. Okay, only lawyers can understand. It's a lawyer's paradise. All that is true. All that is true. But also one more thing is true about our constitution is we have taken features from all throughout the world, but we have made it suitable to Indian scenario. That is what is the explanation of Article 14 that we will do. So you understand this is an old Britain concept. In Britain, why did they keep this? Because they had this issue to fight that they had to keep equality before law. Meaning every single person is equal before the law. Understood up until here, right? But in Indian scenario, yes, everyone are equal in front of the law. Okay? But there is an exception. That exception is now, I'll give this example. There is going to be a 100 meters race, running race. Everyone standing in the line. Alright? There are 4 candidates standing in the line. Okay? all are male candidates. Alright. Now the rules of the game are pretty simple. Who runs 100 meters race wins. Pretty simple. Same like this. Equality before. All are treated equally. This is British concept up until here clear. But one person here, this D, this is India scenario. This person is disabled. Okay, he doesn't have legs. Now, if I put him also in this category and tell who runs first wins the race, that's all. According to mine, I am equality before law. I don't care whether this person is having legs or not, or this. I am only focused on who wins this. Who crosses this line first wins. Does it seem fair? Does it seem fair? No. Right? So this concept was very restrictive, isn't it? This concept is very restrictive, telling, no, I'm just going to put everyone in one box without seeing their special preference. Without seeing the exceptions, if I'm doing this, this is very constrictive, meaning negative. Again, I've told you in previous class itself, negative in polity doesn't mean bad. It means it is very constrictive. Okay, let's write down the meaning of negative. In polity, negative means it's just constrictive, it's not broader. For that, we brought in this concept, equal protection of laws, which is a very positive concept, meaning it is very broad. It said that, simple words, treat equals equally. Done? Done? Clear up until here? That is what equal protection of laws we are trying to do this. Simple thing. Treat equals equally. Okay, all three of them are there, na? You tell, now if you're going to run a race, you put them in one category. Now this you're telling disabled, na? Put other disabled people in the one category. Understanding? Now let them run, among them who wins, that you declare as a winner for here. But here put them, all these people who are equal. In this you can put it, all of them are disabled. Let's say all three of them have lost their legs. Now if you put a race for them and if they win, this is fair. But telling that, just because all of them I'm going to put them and they are going to win, that is not fair. Okay, it becomes very negative, it becomes constrictive, it is not suitable for our Indian society. So, you treat equals equally. Understanding? Meaning, you make exceptions. Indian society ka equality before law pe, we have a lot of exceptions. One of the concept, okay, the equal protection of law. Equality of law. Further takes roots. Okay, I told you Britain concept propounded by this Britain guy. Okay, called as Dicey, A.V. Dicey. Now we introduce something called as rule of law. This is a US concept. Yeah, just write this now. Okay, I'm just introducing the concept later. I will. Simple thing, Article 14, equality of law, meaning everyone are equal in front of the law. Yeah. Equality before law, which means everyone are equal in front of the law. But in Indian scenario, this rule won't work. If this has to work, then you have to consider it with exceptions. Now, what are these exceptions? Let's say, if I say UPSC example, let me give. I could just clearly tell whoever, let's say cutoff is 109. Yes. Equality of law concept I am explaining. If I have to pick bureaucrats for running this nation, then I need meritorious candidates. That's all, right? Whoever crosses 109 in prelims is selected for mix. That's all should be my idea. But I told you this concept doesn't apply to Indian scenario. Okay? You have something called as GM has to get 109. Okay? Your OBC has to get a different marks which is less than 109. Your SC, ST, they have to get a lesser marks. Yes, we are giving cutoff marks different for different categories. Yes, this is the exception here. For different categories, we are considering them different. Why? Now here is where we give the explanation as to Indian society, okay, was based, or at least this particular section have faced unequal disadvantages. Okay, look at the words I'm using. They have faced disadvantages because of one small simple thing. Remember, I think in your introductory classes, I mentioned a child belonging to a lower caste, a 6-year-old child, if the child has to walk seeing his parents tie broom and walk on the floor, what are you going to explain to that child? So, the child had to undergo something of a generational trauma just because of the birth, okay, into a particular caste, which is invisible. Can you see caste? Can you say, okay, if your blood is so and so color, you belong to this caste? Can you, is it physically created or is it biologically created? Is this created by the nature? This is created by the society. Yes. So all these sections underwent generational amount of trauma just because of something they created by the society. Now what we tell, the reason for reservations or anything that you give, okay, that is this exceptions that you give is to read or to right the wrong. Now people can tell, what, because they pasted it in the back, now they can't do it. Reason is this particular sections were not allowed to get education, were not allowed to get employment, were not allowed to be socially, or they were not allowed to be in a proper community because they belong to this. Because of that, their ancestors, still today, many people from this particular sections. Okay, now in this we can add religion also. Many sections, they do not prefer sending their children to schools and colleges. And that is where again your role as bureaucrat will come in, and you have to persuade them, force them into sending their children to schools and colleges. Why? Because their generational trauma, their way of upbringing is, no, we do not have to have an education. We just have to carry forward the occupation, whatever our ancestors did. Today, many of them are, again, this was also in the present, very recent newspaper article. Many Dalit students, okay, they, in a particular village, not going to mention their name, they tried to burn their parents because the present day, the students who were studying engineering or something, they did not, when marriages are conducted, they were forced to wash everyone's feet. They said, I'm an engineering graduate and I do not believe in this thing where I have to wash everyone's feet in the village during someone else's marriage ceremony because my caste members were doing this. The district magistrate, that is the collector, had to intervene and tell. The villagers told, no, this is the law, this is the custom of this village, you have to do this. Why? Because you are born to this particular thing. Your parents did this, their parents did that. Why are you telling you are not going to do it? Understanding? So this is still continuing to wash this, or because these sections still, if you look at the rate, Niti Aayog, also your education, everything, The number of dropout rates and the number of enrollment rate are very, very less in these sections only. Why? Because of the same generational thing that they carried, still they are continuing with that. It is not a very alarming change where everyone, yeah, you may see few examples which can be different, but still if you see majority, almost 80% of India is still in the rural portions. They still have the same structure. So this is the exception that we applied. For these people, we cannot tell how all equality before law for everyone this rule applies. For a majority section of these people, let's say this SC, ST community and all those things, they still do not have access to so-called concept of reading. Many times where, let's say this example also, it came out 2 weeks back. A girl was paraded on a donkey belonging to a lower caste because she wanted to, it was no mistake of hers, but she wanted to just go ahead and study. Amidst that they are trying to study and get here means you have to give them a pedestal to step up. That is why their cutoff ranks are given, cutoff numbers are given very less. Despite that, our society itself puts an obstacle for them. So this equality before law doesn't work for Indian scenario because this is Indian scenario. So we have to offer them a pedestal, that is the exceptions. We will see everyone equally, but we will only see equals equally. Understanding? All of them cannot be considered equals. People of GM consider equal. People of OBC consider them equal. People of ST equal. People of ST equal. Okay, but not all of them put together to be called equals. Understood? Yes or no? Why am I getting blank faces? Write this down. Clearly write it down because it is a very important topic. I'll just introduce the topic. I haven't explained rule of law. Equality before law, everyone are equal. Okay, equal protection of laws, that is your positive concept which states treat equals equally, this thing. Okay, so India follows both this as well as that, a blend of both. Okay, this makes Article 14 unique to Indian scenario. Understood? Yes or no? That way pe write down. Done? Clear up until here? We'll move ahead. So now we have seen the concept, we are still in Article 14 only. We have seen how this law is to be applied. Yeah, Article 14 speaks about law. Everyone is equal in front of the law. Okay. Then we felt that was very restricted to Indian scenario. everyone is equal, but only equal should be treated equally in front of law. Okay, whereas unequal should be treated in a different manner. That much is clear. So now this concept of law was questioned. Okay, law means if a law is made into an act, everyone has to follow it, right? Two things, again, very, very important. Procedure established by law. Rule of law. Please understand this concept very well. This is very, very, very crucial. I cannot stress the importance of this. In a fundamental right, certain articles are very easy, very one-wordish. But there are some articles which are very too deep. One such article is your Article 14. Okay, clear up until here? Now, when it comes to law, okay, nothing but your act, whatever is now, anything in act, we have to follow it. Yes. This concept of procedure established by law, again, it is a British concept. Okay, this was propounded by a guy called Dicey. See, this topic, largely prelims questions will be asked. Largely people fail and lose here. Rule of law, viewers, religion, concept. Okay. Law supreme. Whatever law is of the land, you will have to follow it. According to the law, according to Indian Constitution, according to Article 14, when we speak about a law, we speak about this. Okay, read on this. This is a prelims question. Indian Constitution speaks and mentions about procedure established by law. That is, Indian Constitution mentioned is this one. None? See, back in Britain, again, 14th century. They had to bring this equality before law. That is, everyone is equal in front of the law. At that point of time, they also had church domination. Church used to dominate, trying to interfere into state affairs. So they brought about this concept. See, whatever the law tells, you have to just follow the law. That law applies whether you are a church, whether you are a common person, whether you are the state, even state comes below the law itself. The reason they had to bring this, see, for everything I'm telling you, the reason why they bought it. Understanding? This is very, very crucial in your prelims and interview. The reason they bought this is because their scenario, their society, again, this is borrowed by, okay, India borrowed this from your Britain Constitution. This procedure established by law clearly stated that whether you are church, whether you are a common person, whether you are a master, whether you are a slave, whether you are a person who is an individual, whoever you are, if the law tells something, that law applies to the entire land, despite whoever you are. Understanding? Yes or no? Now, this was set up for your Britain. Now, the same thing when it is brought to Indian Constitution, this will not be, again, I'll tell you the issues later. Okay, here it says said, irrespective of who you are, the law of the land will prevail. Meaning, whatever law is there in that land, you should follow that law. Clear? Now, this is one thing. Understood up until here? Just this, did you understand? In this land, whatever law is there, you will have to follow that law. Same concept. This rule of law. This was a US origin, where when the law is passed, okay, according up until this period of time, up until this concept came up, everywhere they practice this. In this land, if there is a law that states this, you have to do this. Let's say now this people questioned. Yeah, again, when it is about US constitution, it is strictly about your rights. Individual rights, individual liberty, they take priority over anything. That is why they are called Bill of Rights concept. Today, whatever we call fundamental rights in India, the same fundamental rights in USA is called as Bill of Rights. Okay? For them, Bill of Rights or your individual rights are extremely important. Now, those people spoke that, okay, so now they will question. Now, if there is a law, okay, if there is a law, according to this people, let's say only men are allowed to work. Back then, they also had a law that only men have the right to vote. Okay. Now, according to procedure established by law, only men are supposed to vote. That is the law. If that is the law, then that land has to follow that, which means no woman in that land can go and vote because the law clearly states that only men can vote. This is procedure established by law. Doesn't it seem constrictive? So, because this is very constrictive, it is a negative concept. Yes or no? Yes. Again, negative means here I'm not telling it's bad. Polity version, if something is negative, it means it's constrictive. Okay? Whereas US they asked, you are telling the law is only men should vote. Yes? That is the law. In this land, they created this concept. No, we will not agree to the law. Rather, we will question the validity of the law. Just because a law is passed, this land will not accept this law. This land, that is this particular country, that is this people, will question the law itself. Is that question, is that law which you put, is it valid? Is it what the people want? If it is not, then you have to change the law itself. Okay? Here, if a law is established and put, that's it, set in stone, you have to follow it. But here, if a law is passed to the land, you will see whether this law is valid. Okay? So when they said only men should vote, they questioned that law itself and they told why only men should vote. Then is when they got your universal adult franchise. Okay? So this concept where they question the validity of the law is called as rule of law. This is a US origin concept. Okay? Up until here, clear? Write this down. Is it clear up until here? Any doubts so far?
So in procedure established by law, like they cannot question that. Nothing.
If it is a law, you have to follow. It is the law of the land. Because this is broader, this is a positive concept.
For example, if some reservation of home to be in so if language question is law,
What is it?
like some law like men can vote or something like reservation in US. So this law like will be challenged, language question. Like people.
No, that is where exceptions will come here also. That we'll discuss little bit further. Up until here, clear? Any doubts so far? Now here where things get little bit tricky from your prelims perspective. They have asked this multiple times, n number of times. Understand this? Procedure established by law, this exact word is mentioned in Indian Constitution. Understanding? Clear up until here, no? You have written that down. Rule of law is nowhere mentioned in Indian Constitution. Write that down. First write this and then write next to it. Procedure established by law, British concept. Rule of law, US concept. Procedure established by law is mentioned properly, clearly in words. It is mentioned in Indian Constitution. Rule of law is nowhere mentioned in Indian Constitution. Okay. Now, one step ahead. Indian Constitution, this is mentioned. Yes, this is not mentioned. But in reality, and also, India follows this. It doesn't follow this. India follows rule of law, but rule of law is nowhere mentioned in our constitution. India constitution it is mentioned, but we do not follow this. Why do we follow this? Because it is more broader, it is a more positive concept. And also, does this concept feel like somewhere you've heard of this? You will question the validity of the law. If the law is not valid, then it is declared unconstitutional and void. Article 13 gives effect to rule of law. Okay, we are telling that we follow rule of law is because of this. Article 13 judicial review. This was not mentioned in the constitution, but your Supreme Court interpreted this like this. Understanding? This is also nowhere have the constitution pay nor Supreme Court pay they are mentioning this, but because of this version of Article 13, Supreme Court interpreted, meaning they will not open their mouth and tell anything, but they will interpret like this in the cases. One largely, again, we will bring here is your Keshwananda Bharati case. Where? Okay, again, I have not yet spoken to you about what that case is, but just this much you know. Here they introduce certain thing. Okay, that is the most important thing. Basic structure of the Constitution. Before you write this, let me explain. See, there is a case called Keshwananda Bharati case. I am still not discussing the case with you. Later. According to that case, okay, the Constitution, whatever is there, Supreme Court is the one who interprets the Constitution. That is, see, because it is too legal, one of the disadvantages of our Constitution or criticism of our Constitution is it's too much legalist. If a common person reads it, he won't even know what it is. But if there is somebody designated to tell what Constitution is telling, that is your courts or judiciary. Supreme Court is usually considered as the interpreter of the Constitution. Supreme Court told that in your Keshwananda Bharati case 1973, our Constitution has something called as a basic structure. Okay? Whether be it executive or legislature or even judiciary for that matter, no one has the right to change or alter that basic structure. Okay? But in nowhere of the Constitution we have used what These words are not used. Okay, first thing. Second thing, even the Supreme Court did not define what is a basic structure. Understanding? They used this word, but they did not define what it means, and this word is not used anywhere in the Constitution. Meaning, this was the interpretation of the Supreme Court. Understanding? Similarly, this interpretation is your Article 13, where judiciary will question the validity of the law. Okay, if it in case is unconstitutional, then Supreme Court will strike down even that law. Meaning, we give effect to rule of law over procedure established by law. Understood? Yes or no? Write that down. Elaborately write this down. This is very, very important topic. Clear up until here? Any doubts?
This procedure established in law is mentioned in Constitution. Why has not been amended or
Procedure established by law. Again, here if we remove this off, okay, then it should mean we are following rule of law. Somewhere, if I put a law, then people have to follow it, right? For example, you just saw Constitutional Amendment Act, Citizenship 2019. If I remove this concept, then that means that you don't have to follow the law itself. Understanding? Then how will people follow the law? We need this, but we follow that. Clear up until here, written down? Now. Yes.
what if someone else comes there and there is Supreme Court should not change law because procedure of procedure established by laws already mentioned.
See, no one can come and tell Supreme Court is wrong. Supreme Court is the ultimate authority. Only a higher bench of Supreme Court, they will keep changing their laws. See, for example, in Berubari Union case, Supreme Court only told that preamble is not a part of Constitution. Then a higher bench, let's say 2 judges told that time. Now, 3 judges will come of Supreme Court and they will tell, no, preamble is part of the Constitution. That is what your Keshwan and Bhakti cases. So, Supreme Court itself will keep changing the interpretation. No one else can come and tell Supreme Court to change it. Ultimate authority. No, it's not about a majority. Usually it is understood that higher the bench, which means higher the order. It's not about majority. Okay? Now, little bit in detail, the same thing. One of you said that. So now you've told that men only should vote, means women question, right? So what if no women ka reservation? Means now men will come and question, why you are giving reservation? This is where, now this much is clear, no? Article 14, equality before law, equal protection of law, procedure established by law, rule of law. Clear on the concepts. So overall, Article 14 means right to equality. Yes? Yes or no? I mentioned a bunch of articles and I told from 14 to 32 is all your fundamental rights. Also, I pointed out at Article 31 and I told this was right to acquire property. Okay, this we have removed, repealed. Okay, now see in articles only. All right, for example, if I have to mention this article, okay, I will either write Article 19 or I will write a capital letter A, full stop 19. Under this, there will be, this is called an Article 19. Under this, we will have clauses. Article 19, for example, it says a right to speech. Okay, like this, we have separate sections in this article itself. Okay. Oh, right to speech, let's say right to one article only. Under this article, there are certain subsections. Okay. Now, under this subsection, there will be again further subclauses. All I'm trying to tell is, there is one article. Under that article, there are certain clauses. So what I'm using is clauses. This is clause. Okay. Clause means sections. Right to speech is different, right to movement is different, no? Yes or no? So they are different, so they have to be put in separate subheadings. For your understanding, think of them as subheadings. Under this subheadings, there will be further more things to add like this. Okay. In the polity, if you have to write, I will teach you how to write down the article. This is important, you have to learn. So let's say I have to reference this particular article. Then the way I have to tell this, Article 19 ka, this is clause 1. Okay. Under that, it is a subclause. This is Article 19. Under Article 19, if you go, this is one clause. I have written the clause like this. You have to write it like this only. In that one, there will be further more subsections, no? So that subsections is called a subclause. Okay. So this is the article. This is called the clause. This is called the subclause. But when I have to read it out loud, I will read it as subclause B of clause 1 of Article 19. I will read it in reverse. Understanding? This is how you read an article. Now, write down this. This is how you have to write an article also. There can be even subclause within a subclause. Okay, but as of now, just this much should be enough for you to know. And the way you read it should be from the reverse. Done? Clear up until here? The reason we bought this is, said on Article 31 is removed. Yeah, that was right to property. But under Article 31, there were 3 other sub-clauses. Okay, which dealt with totally different topics. Only 31 dealt with right to property. Okay, the 31 deals with acquisition of estates and etc. etc. Okay, what these are a little bit end I will tell. So when I tell Article 31 was removed, only this portion was removed. Meaning this portion, this portion, this portion and all still exist. 31 removed. 31A, B, C exists. Understood? Only this article removed. Subclauses still present in the Constitution. Okay? The reason why I'm telling. Clear up until here? I spoke to you about Article 14. Yeah? Right to equality. We have discussed in detail of all the features of Article 14. Coming back to the question. Now, it's there. Now, women raised a question. Now, this things like, for example, reservation for women, maternity, this, everything will come in. No? So now men can also raise, right? Hey, equality, no, then there is equality for us. This is where our Supreme Court has interpreted, and you will use the judgment. Okay, exact judgment. You will write it like this. Supreme Court held that when Article 31C comes in, Article 14 goes up. Write this, highlight this, it's very important. Whenever your mains answer has Supreme Court, this is Supreme Court verdict. This, your answer gets very big weightage. Done up until here? Clear up until here? See, details you don't have to know what this is, just for naming sake. Article 31 deals with the acquisition of estates. Article 31B deals with about putting the laws in your 9th schedule. Article 31C is where your priority is now. Just don't need to worry. According to Article 31C, it states that state will make certain laws. Okay? State will make certain laws and that has to be implemented for the betterment of certain sections such as women, children. Okay, your SC, ST, all these people के लिए for upbringing or basically for the betterment of society के लिए, there will be certain laws that have to be made which seem like they are given a priority, which is true. They will be given priority. Why? Because again, the same thing that we spoke in equality before law, SC, ST, all those things, and below that comes these 2 sections. Okay, these have always been put in so much trauma, generational trauma. Still, all these things will be keeping on done to them. So to bring them to a just and fair society, we have to give them a pedestal to rise. Okay, that is what comes in the name of your reservation and all these things. So whenever we give these things, this cannot be questioned under Article 14 as my right to equality. That is why Supreme Court held that, see, fundamental right is very, very important. Okay, but in that fundamental right also a bit of priority will come in here. That is what your Supreme Court held that when 31C comes in, Article 14 goes out, meaning 31C has priority over Article 14 in this aspect. Meaning just because you are giving schemes, laws and all these things. For example, we have Janani Suraksha Yojana. Okay, where you will give health care for your maternity, maternal mother, newborn child and everyone. Now the men, you can tell, right to equality, then health care means you should give for men also. Here is where, no, this particular section, here we have to do this because India has highest number of maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, we have to curb this. We have to at least give them a living chance. Okay, they are dying and that can be stopped. Okay, here you cannot come and tell no equality, you should also give me equal amount of money and all this healthcare. You cannot do that. So Article 14 takes lesser precedence over Article 31C. Understood? Yes or no? Clear? Write this down. This is considered as an exception to Article 14. Whenever you mention Article 14, the question is about it, you have to mention about this also. 31C takes precedence over Article 14. Is that statement right or wrong? No one even heard the question. I just broke my throat telling it. Article 31C takes precedence over Article 14. Correct? Done? Clear up until here? Now, there are certain more. Now, one thing with respect to your fundamental right is, fundamental right in India is not absolute. Okay, when I say that, fundamental right, you have to write that down as a prelims question. Fundamental right is not absolute. Meaning, if I told, right to equality means it should be just this. It should not be like all the things that we told, put the equals equally, all these exceptions, it will not work only. If it is absolute, which means you have to strictly follow this. But in no society can it be followed. That is why fundamental rights are always associated with exceptions. Okay, because this fundamental right is so important to us, if the exceptions are going to be there, then it has to satisfy we spoke in the last class, test of reasonableness. Okay, if there is some fundamental right you're restricting, then it has to satisfy, yes, it is reasonable to put this exception. Arbitrarily, you cannot make, your fundamental right is curbed. Why? I feel like it. No. It has to be reasonable exception to make sure you're curbing this fundamental right. Here you are quoting Article 14 because there is a reasonable restriction, that is Article 31C. Understanding? Yes, no, should I repeat something? See, okay, I'll give it to you with this example. I've used this example also in the last class. Freedom of movement. Okay, anyone is free to move about anywhere in the country. Okay, that is your fundamental right under Article 19. Freedom of movement. This is a very important fundamental right. You should be free to move about anywhere. But there is an exception to this. There are 3 exceptions. Your movement of prostitutes is restricted. Okay. Now, if I'm telling movement of prostitutes is restricted, I have to tell a reason as to why. Meaning it should be reasonable. Simply you cannot tell, no. It is restricted. Now here the exception is because of public health, morality. Okay. The reason I told was, okay, it is not on the person, it is on the occupation. Understanding? The reason was this people at one particular time when we saw the concept of your STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, were on a high spread because of this particular section, wherein majority section of India was now suffering. Okay. For this reason, this fundamental right to movement was curved for this section. Why? Because it should be a reasonable exception. Another thing, movement of AIDS affected people was also regulated and restricted. Here you are not telling they will not move out of that place at all. No, it was restricted to certain areas, or in some areas it was regulated. If they are going, you will just watch the movements. Understanding? Another thing, freedom of movement is restricted. The third thing was based on for protection of cultural heritage, customs, etc. Meaning, if you have to enter into certain zones of, let's say, Arunachal Pradesh, or let's say Andaman and Nicobar, okay, there exists now if we take Andaman and Nicobar on, there exist people who are very native to native, sentinels. Okay, you can't go there with a camera and tell, dude, I'm there to picture you, take a picture, you stand. No, they won't like that. You have to protect those people also. So, to these places such as to Andaman, Nicobar, a certain particular islands, or entry into Arunachal Pradesh, okay, all these areas, your freedom of movement is restricted. Understanding? If I say freedom of movement, then without any doubt, everyone should be able to move around freely. That becomes absolute right. I told you, no, we do not have an absolute right. We always have exceptions. Now, these are the exceptions. This exception should come with a reasonable answer. That is this. Understood? Write down with the example so you'll understand it better. Any doubts? Clear up until here? Any doubts? Anything you don't understand? Okay. that completes Article 14. See, not every article is irritating like this, but few articles are very easier one-liner, but few articles will be there. So Article 14, one of the exceptions, okay, we saw is your 31C, okay. Another exception, again, we said Article 14 means right to equality only, no? But here one of the exception is for your president and the governor. Okay, one thing is, write it down. See, these are head of state kind of representative level, right? There is a specification that is these two have immunity. President and governor. Okay, what do I mean by immunity? Let's specifically take to this one, president. If while the president is in duty, okay, you cannot file any criminal charges against him. Understanding? You cannot file any criminal charges against him. But when it is coming to a civil case, okay, when there is a civil case that has to be filed in front of him, even that cannot be filed on him instantly. Rather, you have to give 2 months notice. You can question, yeah, why no criminal case? What if the day is a murder and that in the sea? He is a head of state, he or she. If someone is to be put in that particular state, then they will obviously make sure the person is not a person who will go killing people. Okay, it is not for the person we are giving this immunity, it is for the post we are giving this immunity. Okay, so all these places where these are exceptions, equality means everyone should be treated equally, no? So then why this fellow is getting immunity? This is because this is an exception to Article 14. Understanding? And also, Article 14 ka exception is one major thing. This is your foreign diplomats. Okay, who are posted in India. They do not get to avail these offers because they are not run on our law, they are run on their country ka law. So they are also coming under exceptions, foreign diplomats. Okay. Whenever India has been trying to implement any international peace accords, those point of time also Article 14 exceptions are there. And also whenever your schemes for women, children, SC, ST, OBC, etc. are there, you cannot claim that Article 14, they come as an exception as Article 31C. One other thing is from 14 to 32, there are exceptions. Okay, for all these articles, but there are a bunch of exceptions which are common to all the articles. For example, security of India. Okay, integrity of the nation. Okay, all these fundamental rights will take a back seat when it is about security of India, integrity of India, and all those things. Okay, it's a bunch of words, you just have to by heart and keep it. So, irrespective of what article they ask, the question is about, as an exception, you can directly use it there. Okay, I'll show those words, you can use it. This is a foolproof method, so your answer will be holistic. Clear? Understood? Yes or no? Completes your Article 14. Okay? Article 15. Okay. Simpler sense by try understanding this. The whole reason why we had kept Article 15 was this thing. The same thing that is. See, we just don't have caste system, we also have subcaste system. We don't have just Varna system, but we also have Jati system. Distinctions among people kept on increasing so much. Okay, this distinctions further made sure that disadvantages also increased. India where we also had rules, okay, where people could not use or get access to your public amenities such as wells, ponds, okay. For those that we faced for many long years. Your Article 15 clearly states just this much. State should not do any discrimination, okay, against anyone solely based on caste, sex, gender, race, okay, your birthplace, all these things, okay. One of the things is, okay, first and foremost, state should not discriminate, okay. State should not discriminate just based on solely these things. First thing. Second thing, whatever state has created, such as something which is wholly or partially maintained out of state funds, such as if the state, let's say I buy a property, 30-40 site I buy, okay, in that I build a small house and pura garden I will build, okay. Now I can tell no one come into this garden. Why? Because that is my private property. But now if state opens a park completely out of state funds, okay, the state could mean anyone. Here it could be the parliament, the Article 12, even LIC, that thing, because they're all coming under the definition of state, no? So if the state decides to build a park or a well or a pond or a movie theater or a hotel or anything for that matter, if it is built which is coming either wholly from state funds or even partially from state funds, then it cannot discriminate anyone going into this place based on caste, class, sex, gender. Understanding? It has to maintain discrimination should not be there. Understood? Yes or no? That's all is Article 15. Simpler words we write it down, then we will fill in the article. First one, discrimination should not be there. Second one, whatever is built by state, which is either by wholly state funds or partly state funds, these things, state should not discriminate any person into going in there belonging to particular caste, okay, particular race, gender. Okay. A little bit continuation of this is your Article 16, which states that state should not discriminate against anyone on the basis of, again, caste, class, sex, place of birth, gender, etc. for public employment. Article 15 is against discrimination. Article 16 is against discrimination for public employment. These two articles should be read together to be understood as one whole unit. These are one whole unit, but in separate parts, two separate articles. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. You all know they will leave out notifications, right? For example, UPSC will leave notification for so many posts, so many people can apply. Let's say now Karnataka government has left out a notification. I have 300 group A posts. Okay, the notification states like this. I have 300 group A posts in Karnataka. This is Karnataka period law. Only men should apply. If the notification reads like this, is it right or wrong? Wrong. Why? Discrimination on the basis of gender. The same Karnataka government says, I have 300 posts, okay, vacant to work in my mine, that is government owned mine. Is that right or wrong? What is it? Oh yeah, only men can apply. Right or wrong? Here it is right. It was wrong here, it was right here because this is the exception. Because of the place of work. Okay, again, this will open a can of worms telling, who are they to determine mine is hazardous for women and all those things. But they have felt that this is too hazardous for a woman or a child to work in. Okay, so in this condition, this is an exception. In very hazardous occupations, state can